I see you shiver with anticipation.
Hey there, all you queens and cryptids, and welcome to Queer and Loathing, the only podcast that tastes better over ice. I'm your host, Brett Bodie, and with me are my co-hosts.
I'm Mel.
I'm Samantha.
And welcome to our special Pride Month extravaganza.
Yay!
It's June, y'all.
It's June.
And in honor of June, aka Pride Month, as some would say, gay pride specifically,
Yes.
we're talking about maybe like the ultimate just cult classic film. I think this is sort of the exact platonic ideal of a cult classic movie.
I have to agree.
Rocky Horror Picture Show from 1975. So I think I watched it for the first time in high school. I had come out like freshman year of high school, and I probably watched it then or maybe sophomore year.
Come out as what?
As fag.
Oh.
I didn't expect you to say the word the Pope said.
Honestly, that has made my Pride Month, that Pope story. But
What-
I am a
what is
problematic.
it in Italian?
I don't remember.
In my
It's
head, I
not
just
one
think
that I learned. We didn't drill it in my
didn't-
Italian class.
you didn't learn that in Italian class.
Faggotry.
That's what I think is like faggoccini or
Yeah,
something.
it's basically that.
I'm going to make no guesses.
Oh, it's so funny. But yes, I saw it. I kind of felt I must, because it's like one of the most famous, just like queer movies of all time, and just it's so famous even beyond the queer community.
Oh yeah.
And I enjoyed it, but I gotta say it's never been a movie that I've really loved. I'm almost like I want to love it, and there's parts of it, aspects of it that I do absolutely adore. But I've maybe watched it like a couple times over the years, and most recently was yesterday. But I think in some ways I got the most out of it this viewing experience. But Mel, what about you?
I just don't remember the first time I saw Rocky Horror. I would assume I know it was at least sometime in elementary school or middle school, like when I was pretty young, and I had
Young.
huh?
That does feel young, yes.
Well, for me, it is kind of par for
Young
the course.
for the non-movie buffs, I guess.
Or just people who had,
People who aren't Mel.
yeah,
Okay.
people who had any censorship in their life. But I saw it when I was pretty young, and I remember that because I had a Discman that, we don't have any like Zoomers who listen to this, but it was a thing you would play CDs on, and you could listen to it with headphones.
They don't know what any of those things are that you just said.
I also had a boombox that they also don't know what that means, but I had the soundtrack to the movie. So it wasn't the show soundtrack.
Right.
It was for the movie specifically, and I listened to it so much. And I think I've mentioned this on the podcast before, but I lived really far away from the school I went to, so I was alone like all the time, and I would just play it over and over again, and I would literally sing through the entire musical as one character, and then I would start over and do. Is this not normal?
No, I love
No,
it.
this
I
is
love
great.
it.
And I want to know which
I love
characters you
it.
gravitated towards.
Oh, Magenta. I
Okay.
love Magenta.
Yeah,
But like
agree.
everyone, I knew
Yeah.
every part. Like I love Riff Raff's parts. I think they're so iconic the way he sings them. I mean, just the whole thing. Like I knew every single. I still do. I know every song, every line to every song, because I would just sing them to myself like over and over again. I have a really conservative, I would say, maybe not normal family, but like they did not appreciate it.
Right.
But I would stay in my room and I would just act it out, and then I would watch like the DVD over and over again. And it's weird because like I'm not in love with this movie. I don't think it's a perfect movie. Like it's super punk and it's very like low budget. Like there are things I like about it, but this is not what I would call like a seamless film.
No.
But it's super charming. And if you're someone who identifies as a weirdo, there has been some point in your life where this movie has been important to you. I mean, at least I would say for people our age and older. Like, and we'll get into the discourse in a bit, but I will say, like, this movie was extremely important to me. Not so much that, like, I don't go to, like, the screenings where people shout at it, but when I was a little kid, I remember I went on the internet, which wasn't always easy to do back then,
No.
and I found the script, because I had heard about it, for the audience that's watching the movie, and I, like, listened to it while I was reading through it, because I just wanted to, like, know what were people
Just the
shouting.
part where they throw toast or whatever it is.
Get an umbrella, you cheap bitch, you know, that kind of thing.
You're wet.
Yes, it's raining.
Samantha?
Well, I first saw a live performance of it before I saw the movie. So I had a lot of, like, actor friends who are involved in the actor community, and I got invited as a +1, and I was
This
like,
was
wow,
to
this
the
is
stage version.
stage version. Yep. And yeah, I was like 16 or 17, so I was still in high school. And I had been a little warned a little bit that there would be audience participation. I was not prepared, but enough. But it was fun. I enjoyed it. And then I didn't watch the movie until maybe college or something. And then I think my second time watching it was this past week. And it's, you know, I like it. It's fun. I mean, I don't know if I love it, but I enjoy it overall. And I know the songs. So, you know, my history with it is I've seen it 3 times period. One time was a live performance, and that
Which
was a
I've
lot
never
of fun.
seen. I've
It was
never
a lot of
seen the
fun.
stage version, personally.
Nor have I.
I mean, if I had free tickets to go see it, I definitely would, but I'm not,
would, yeah.
you know, gonna go out of my way to see it. But it does, for the people who don't know, it does predate the movie. The movie,
Yeah, it was the Rocky Horror Show.
yes.
And then the movie adaptation became the Rocky Horror Picture Show.
I actually don't know a huge amount about the stage show, but it was written by Richard O'Brien, who in the movie is Riff Raff. And he did not direct the film. I watched the commentary track this morning with Richard O'Brien, who wrote the screenplay, and Patricia Quinn, who plays Magenta. It was very charming because they clearly are very old friends, because they were both in the, you know, original run.
Yeah.
But, like, clearly it's not the vision that he necessarily had for his play. But yeah, I don't know, like, a ton about it. I only know about the play through things I know about the movie.
Yeah, I guess it was actually in London, the premiere. And then there was a Broadway run. And then I think they like kind of redesigned the makeup and costumes for the movie.
And added some different pieces. Because the actual Transylvanians, I don't think are in the original stage play. They
Okay.
added that to the movie.
I see.
Where it was funny because Pat Quinn was like, you know, none of us knew that those people were going to be there. And she, like, walked into a room and they were all performing. And she's like, I almost fainted. She's like, I don't know if I could say this, but it was just so freakish.
That's funny.
Because it's, you know, it's like tall people, short people,
Yes,
big people, little
right.
people. It's like all these, like, very striking people. And it's so funny that someone who is, like, you know, from the original run.
Right. And
Was
so
like-
associated with Rocky
Yes.
Horror.
Was just so, like, shocked by it.
That's cute.
But I do think that is what Rocky Horror is. I think it is a freak show. And it has all the baggage that comes with being a freak show. So I do kind of want to talk about the discourse.
Let's talk about it.
Even though, like, we're all solid millennials. Most people who listen
We're
to
pretty
this,
solid.
we
Say
see
thank you.
Yeah, I
we
agree.
see our demographics. So there's not a ton of, like, Zoomers listening to this.
Sure.
But the Zoomers
Yet.
have opinions on this. And I think it's worth listening to them, but also reminding them that this was made in 1979 or
Right.
whatever.
75.
75,
Yeah.
So this is, the discourse is in a big way surrounding how problematic it is. Part of that is the freak show element. I think of the movie Freaks.
Yep. And I definitely see that element to it with some of the casting and
Yes. So you have the characters themselves are transvestites from transsexual Transylvania, which for the young people, they're going to get hung up on the idea that transvestites and transsexuals, not only are those words we don't even use anymore,
Right.
but they're not the same thing, right?
Right.
Cross-dressing versus being trans are not the same.
Mm-hmm.
But also, like,
But also, I mean, in the
shut up. It's fine.
I was going to say, and in the movie, like, they're from what? The planet of Transylvania in the galaxy of transsexual.
It's so
It's not even
campy.
necessarily those
Right.
terms. Like, it's just like a planet in a galaxy far away.
Yeah, that's it. It's just silly, goofy camp. It's
Yes.
supposed to be funny and out there, but also, like, these characters, I don't think that it's particularly mean-spirited the way that, because they get hung up on Dr. Frankenfurter. So for those of you who have somehow not seen this movie or don't know anything about it, Tim Curry, who is amazing.
The legend himself.
He is amazing in everything. Well, not everything he's in, but like in most things he's in,
But this in particular, this is
he
one
is
of his high points.
incredible.
Yeah.
Like he makes this movie, I think, what it is today.
Agreed.
But his character is non-gender conforming.
Like
Is
pansexual, perhaps. I think he said that in interviews. Tim Curry has said
Yes.
that he sees Frankenfurter as pansexual.
yeah, because I've seen people online be like, he's just a pedophilic gay, and he makes this because they see Rocky as like childlike because he's just
yeah, all the people who are
7
like,
hours old.
Poor Things is really bad because it's like it's got the brain of a baby, and I'm like, yes. And also, there's a thing that I like to call metaphor.
Right.
Yeah.
Also,
You can just like engage in
Yeah.
art, and you don't have to run it through the problematic machine
It's a
before you can decide whether you
Frankenstein.
like it or not.
his name is Dr. Frankenfurter.
Right.
And he's making
And he's a hot dog.
He's making a man to have sex with.
Yep.
And it's like, I don't know, like there's, consent stuff that happens in it, but
yeah,
like,
that's maybe more where I could like get on board with.
Yeah.
yeah.
It's like, but also I'm like, the dubious consent is like / non-consent is like that's part of it, and I don't think by the end you're like, he's a solid guy. That Frankenfurter.
No.
You know what I mean? Like it's not like it's
Right,
like
right.
condoning like all of his behavior.
The other
It doesn't at all.
The other aliens, Riff Raff says your lifestyle's too extreme.
Right. And they're the other characters from transsexual Transylvania.
They're incest, like
They're incest siblings.
Siblings.
Oh,
Yeah.
I didn't.
Samantha's
know that.
making a face. Yeah, they're
no.
siblings and they're
Like dear brother.
yes. So there's that, and it's like, oh, there's cannibalism, and the portrayal of the drag is too over the top, and it's like, look, you may be young where you have a lot of positive, normal representation in media now as someone who's maybe non-gender conforming, or like, if you're gay or pan, like there's more media now, but like this was the only representation that was really out there for at least, I would say, non-gender conforming characters in
Yeah.
this way for the longest time.
Yeah, and I guess I would say, like, I understand for anyone who can't get past those things. Like, you've been brought up and, like, you see the world through the lens you see it through, and I
You
understand.
don't have to like the movie.
But I think there is value in trying to separate yourself from that a little bit and just meet the movie on its own terms where it is. Where it was made, what the culture was like, when it was made. Like, you don't have to like it, but I think it could be valuable to give it a chance and just try to see it. Like, put your little lens, your little, problematic filter lens down for a second and just maybe see if there's something you like about it. And I think that if there's not something that you find you like about it, that's fine. But I think it's worth investigating.
Or just at least understanding the context.
Yes.
Right? Like, there was no such thing as, like, politically correct in the 70s.
No.
Like
Y'all, there wasn't even, like, AIDS in the 70s.
No.
You know what I mean? Like, so many things that, like, we didn't know, like, transgender was not a term, I don't think. Or,
Right.
like, it was rarely ever used.
It's just like
It was just a very different world.
it's just part of this like song,
Yes.
right? That's because it's like fun to say and goofy.
Yes.
And so like I get that. Like I get where they're coming from. It's like the idea that the gays don't need rent anymore, right? Like there are things that we as society don't quote unquote need. But I will say for like older queers or just people who, because it's not just gay people who like
No,
this,
but older weirdos.
older weirdos, the older freaks Like, this is representation, right? Because the movie is, in a big way, about, like, letting go of societal constraints and, like, letting those inhibitions come out. I mean, that's, like,
Yes.
Susan Sarandon's
Yeah,
whole
exactly.
arc. in
No,
the
totally.
movie.
And I think it also is in large part, I kind of picked up on this angle, it's about the tension between that sort of hedonism and lose your inhibitions and do whatever feels good and give yourself over to absolute pleasure.
Yes.
But like, can that hurt the people around you? Yes, and it does. And like, because, you know, Dr. Scott at the end is like, society must be protected. And it's like, there is that tension where I'm like, society does keep people in their little boxes and keeps people constrained, but some of that is for the good of people around you.
He kills and feeds everybody meatloaf.
Yeah. And not the dish, the singer.
Literally.
Eddie.
Yes.
Like,
But
he
yes.
is not a good guy.
No, but I think the movie does a good job actually of exploring that tension, and it doesn't
I
have to
agree.
spell it out, but it's just like, where do I want to draw the line between, you know, my own pleasure and what I want versus how it affects others and the rules of our society? Like, are some of those rules helpful? Yes. Are some people really hurt by them? Yes.
Yeah.
And there is that tension, and I think that's what the movie is more exploring than being like, this is good or this is bad or these characters are good. That's just such a simplistic way to
Yeah.
view art and to view the world.
And it comes out of, like, the artsy, like, London theater scene.
Yes.
Of this, like, literal 70s.
Yes.
Like,
Everything was like so experimental then.
that's what I'm
more so
saying,
than, like,
is
ever in
it
history.
feels very punk to me. I will say that, I don't know about this, but Pat Quinn, who plays Magenta on the commentary track, said out loud, "This invented punk," and I just kind of narrowed my eyes and I was like, I don't know enough about the concept of punk to say yes or no to that, but it's certainly
It was definitely around where punk was kind of forming, because
Yes.
some punk did grow out of that sort of like early mid-70s like London scene.
And before I watched the commentary track and I was rewatching it, I did think, like, this feels really punk. Not in necessarily the music style, but because it's campy musical theater.
Yeah.
But in just the attitude of, like, I don't know, like, you have these bikers and you have people who represent the most cookie cutter society white yuppies being, like, sucked into this, like, deranged hedonistic.
And finding that maybe they kind of like it.
Right.
Well, at least one of them does.
Yep. We'll get into that.
Yes. And then one more problematic thing that I do understand, because, again, like, if people on the internet are good at anything, it is digging up everything someone has ever said and not being able to separate the art from the artist.
Mhm.
So Richard O'Brien, who created Rocky Horror, right? He is starring as Riff Raff in the movie, probably because it's like you can't have Rocky Horror without him.
Mhm.
I have two quotes from him. One is from 2007. In an interview, he said, "There is a continuum between male and female. Some are hardwired one way or the other. I am in between." So there is this idea by Richard O'Brien that they are in some way trans. This is not the problematic one. In 2020, there was another interview where I think he uses he, him pronouns. "I think anybody who decides to take the huge step with a sex change deserves encouragement and a thumbs up. As long as they're happy and fulfilled, I applaud them to my very last day, but you can never become a natural woman." Also, I want to say he's like 80 years old. So
Right,
this
I'm
is like
like-
another thing. I'm like, he's old. This is not something I want to hear, like,
Like, of course, it's turfy and like gender essentialism and
Started
But
all
it's
of
so
that.
strong.
But it's like,
but it's also
So
he's also
old.
like, do it, right? He's not
Yeah.
he's not like J.K. Rowling, which is like, you must all be eradicated
right.
and literally die. Like, he's not,
No, he's almost saying the opposite, just
Right.
using like,
he just doesn't get it.
he
Yeah.
just doesn't
As much
quite
as he
connect it.
gets it, he does not get it. Because you can see in the movie that he understands that he sees gender as a spectrum, whereas I see gender as a made-up concept, right? So for me, as someone who's non-binary, like, I don't think that there's like this Kinsey scale of straight to gay where you
Right.
slide along it. For him, he sees it that way. You know,
Or like masque to femme or whatever.
right.
Yeah.
And for some people, like, gender and the way that transgender people, which it sounds like he identifies within this realm, it's messy for all of us. You know, you have trans medicalists who look at people like me and just poo-poo us. You have TERFs, the trans exclusionary radical feminists, your J.K. Rowling types, who just like absolutely do not like anybody who even cross-dresses. And you have, people who are just like, I use any pronoun and none of it matters to me and I do whatever I want. And everything in between, because it's super duper messy. So like, I personally am not about to say an 80-year-old who says you'll never be a natural woman is the villain here. Like, he's old as fucking dirt. No offense if you're that old and you listen to this. But like, the way that we understand gender and language has evolved so much. And his vision of it is so progressive for his time. So like, I'm going to go ahead and say, yes, there are problematic aspects to this.
Mm-hmm.
I do not think it is something that needs to be like spat on and turned away. Like, we don't need to turn our backs on it.
No, like, actually, Rocky Horror Picture Show is bad, and its representation is bad, so we don't like it.
And you can Google and find a lot of people who say that.
Oh, yes.
Because you can find people who say about anything.
Right.
But there are like people I've talked to, like young trans people I've talked to, especially, you know, like trans women who are like, I am not Dr. Frankenfurter. And it's like, I don't think Dr. Frankenfurter's trying to be you.
No, I
Like-
don't think that's the intention behind the
Right.
character. It's not to display anything even related to your experience, really,
Yeah.
except just like, ooh, gender bendy, like.
Yes, like some kind of androgynous
Yeah.
sex symbol,
Yeah.
sort of. Yeah, as you said, just sort of like pure id hedonism. But I can understand how trans people who are just thoroughly demonized in society, especially trans women, can see this and their haunches come up. Like, I get it,
Yes.
but this is something that's been so important to the queer community for 50 years almost.
Yes. And what it's like, and you're not going to get me feeling bad about myself for liking it. Like,
Me neither.
I don't feel any kind of cognitive dissonance. Like,
Me neither.
I think my politics are pretty decent. I mean, they'll be out of date one day. It'll happen to you too.
Yes. The wokes will come for us all. We are all going to be canceled.
We will.
On their way.
And that's okay, because I hope that they will afford me the grace of saying that person's 80 fucking years old. They can say something that's like almost super based.
Mhm.
Because like what he said is almost super based.
Yes.
And then it just, you know, you fall off in the end where it's like, what is a natural woman? Like,
Right.
I'm not going to start debating intersex shit with Richard O'Brien.
No,
like,
or
what?
anyone.
Or, I mean, I will with certain people, but please don't come up to me and try to debate intersex people.
Debate me, bro.
I'm not a debate bro. But I thought, like, before we actually talk
Yeah.
about the movie, it's important to talk about the context of where we are today and where, not us, because we were not alive in the 70s, but where the community was. And this was not made to be for queer people, it seems. It was more of just a subversive B romp, like kind of a B movie romp that's supposed to be like funny and fun.
Right. I think it was more about the like that it's the, you know, sort of 40s and 50s like sci-fi
Yes, it is.
and hammer horror. Like that was sort of more the impetus than any kind of statement on
You're right.
like gender or sexuality.
The queers found it and took it, as we often do.
Yes.
for
like
things
we
that are
stole the
awesome.
rainbow from God.
We stole the rainbow from
And
God.
I'll do it again.
We took Jennifer's body.
Yeah, we did do that.
We'll take the good shit.
All right. Should we just dive right into like kind of the opening of the movie?
I think
Do
we
it.
should.
Yeah, so just before we start, like I really love the opening to this movie.
Are you talking about the lips or are you talking about the opening scene with the marriage?
All of that.
Yeah.
I think it's all so iconic, like all the way up through like Sweet Transvestite.
Yes, I agree.
And then we go to the lab, and then that scene lasts for an hour, it feels like.
They
Yeah.
agreed with you.
Really.
Pat Quinn was bitching about it on the commentary. She's like, we were in this pink room forever.
It feels that way to me watching it. But the movie starts so strong, and it has so many amazing moments throughout, all the way until the end. So even though there are lulls for me, there's definitely enough good shit there that like I'll
Oh, yeah.
watch it to the end.
It's also a very short movie.
It is. But yeah, it starts with the iconic lips
And those are Patricia Quinn's lips.
Okay.
and
But-
Richard O'Brien's voice.
Yes.
Right.
Originally, in the stage version, she was singing it, but then for whatever reason, they didn't want like the suit said, like, you can't sing it in this version. So she was like, fuck you guys. But then they said, well, we want to use your lips. So she's like, okay,
Like, I can take the
I'll do it.
compliment. Absolutely.
And then they used Richard O'Brien's voice, and it's so perfect. And I
is.
love that song.
Yeah.
I was
do
singing
too.
it in the shower this morning.
Yeah, that first song, science fiction double feature. And it's very iconic. Like, you see the lips and they're on the poster.
She also said the first lips. And then Richard O'Brien was like, well, Rolling Stone. She was like, that was after. I was like, oh.
Oh, all right.
I mean,
I'll let you have this one.
I do think about the Rolling Stone lips too, so I guess I'm glad she clarifies.
I don't like the Rolling Stones because I like good music,
Okay.
That's spicy.
but I do.
That's
is
one of your
spicy.
spicier hot takes, I
That is
think.
pretty spicy.
But I do like Rocky Horror music, so especially those first 4 songs.
Yeah,
in a
well, because
row.
then we go into the wedding scene where it's, what's her name? Oh,
Hapshat.
no, wait, hold on. Ralph Hapshat and Betty Monroe. But then Janet, who's one of our young lovers, like Brad and Janet, they're our like young couple. They're not engaged at the very start, and they get engaged in like this opening scene. But Janet is like so excited and like dropping hints to Brad, like, wow, just think she used to be plain old Betty Monroe, and now she's Mrs. Ralph Hapshat.
just like delivered so earnestly. It's
Also,
so cute.
I love Susan Sarandon in this movie. I think
She's so
she's
good.
serving
Pretty
the exact right level of
adorable.
camp,
Yes.
and everyone is. But like, I think she gets some hate because she's not the strongest singer, but I have no issues with that, and I really love her in this movie.
I also learned from the commentary that she was like extremely ill with the flu throughout
Pneumonia,
most of
it
the
was.
Yeah. Oh yeah, she had
Yeah.
pneumonia like most of the movie. So she's like in that pool and she's like dying.
Yeah.
But like everyone was like just really into it. So they were trying. It sounds like everyone was really into it except maybe Patricia Quinn.
Which is funny because she's maybe my favorite character in
Magenta?
it. I love Magenta so
She's
much.
great.
Yeah.
She said that she had no direction in the movie, so that's why she's always just sort of standing awkwardly in the background lurking
And
because she
it's
didn't know
what
what
I love
to do.
about her character.
She's like, they kept giving me shit to like clean, like unwrap people, wrap people. They would hand me a mop. It kept cleaning. She's like, I don't even clean this much at home. It's very charming.
Oh, that's so good. And then
So they're at a wedding, and it's like there's an American Gothic sort of theme that goes throughout because
Yes.
there's Gothic horror, and then there's like American Gothic, or like very purposeful references that Richard O'Brien was trying to do. And
right, it's the iconic couple of like the man with the pitchfork and his
and,
wife,
and
they
that's
look
them
miserable.
too.
Yeah.
It's Pat Quinn and Richard O'Brien are playing those roles too.
Yeah,
where
it's
they're-
Magenta and Riff Raff, but in different. I mean, not the same, not those characters, but those actors.
But they're kind of like unrecognizable
Yes,
because they look
are.
so different.
Because I even knew it was them, and I was
missed
still
it.
like,
I mean, Tim Curry's there too.
well, and
I missed
yeah,
it.
I was like, when I really did clock Tim Curry, like immediately,
Yeah. And then it goes into the song "Damn It, Janet."
which I
Classic.
absolutely love. I'm
Oh,
like,
it's so
that's like-
fun.
oh, it's so fun. Everything about it, because like the intro starts, and he's like he'll say a line, and then there's a pause for just like a long thunderclap. And they just like don't notice it when they're in the church. Like they bring a coffin in, and they just like don't notice or care because they're just having such a good time.
They
with-
turn the flowers around because they're white on one side and black on the other because the wedding is turning into a funeral. It's just so funny.
Oh, it is.
Like the movie's so funny.
And it is such a great like campy song, and he proposes to her. And then during that song, well, as we all know, the only logical thing to do once you've gotten engaged,
Is to go see the man who began it.
yes, when you met in his science exam.
Exam it.
So they go to visit, they're like, we got to go visit Dr. Scott because he was our science teacher. So let's drive out there.
If I had to meet the person who created Tinder when I got engaged,
I thought that's what you and Redacted did. I thought you guys road tripped.
yes, Redacted and I road trip to Tinder headquarters.
We got to get him on the road.
Yes.
It doesn't matter.
No, but it doesn't matter, and that's why I love that it's like
It's so
they
dumb.
do give a reason, and it's so stupid.
It's so stupid. It makes no sense, and the movie knows, and it does not care.
no.
Yeah.
So there is a plot, but like
The plot
is
doesn't
there?
matter.
Right, it couldn't matter less.
I think it's time for an ad break.
Okay.
And I think it's me. And this ad is about summer vibes. This is summer vibes, and in June. Am I wearing a wet bathing suit? Yes, I am.
You are. You look very cold.
I'm very cold. I have a towel around me. I swam last night. I swam this morning. I might swim later today. I might swim this weekend. So this is for all of you to go enjoy your June. Although by the time you listen to this, it'll be end of June. So enjoy the rest of your summer and go outside. Be careful for those of you who can't be in the sun.
making very.
I'm looking at Mel.
You're making very meaningful eye contact.
I'm looking at
with me.
Mel.
Remember your SPF.
Remember your SPF. Cover up.
I mean, you don't have to tell
Be
me.
an umbrella.
I
Okay,
won't
I'm
even
telling
go
the other
outside.
pales. What is
Okay.
it you call yourself? I forgot.
Your peach friend?
No, not peach friend. There is another term. But yeah, so this episode is brought to you by Summer Vibes. Go enjoy. Go outside. Go be in the pool.
Or don't go outside.
Go outside. Go
Well,
outside.
we want you to feel the summer vibes either way, whether you're inside or outside.
But we don't want you to have to cut them off later and all the skin around them
Oh,
when
I don't know.
they
I'm
turn
black.
into a melanoma.
Yeah.
I have a lot of melanin. I'm good.
I put the melanoma.
Oh, God. Oh, no.
Hopefully
On
not.
that note,
We'll be right back.
welcome back, everyone. Hope you enjoyed those hot, hot summer vibes in this, our month of Pride.
Absolutely not.
Yeah,
I did.
I sat in like partial sunlight, so in that sense, I did have some summer vibes, I suppose.
I'm like a cave lizard. I need to be in a cool, damp environment at
Oh, my
all
goodness.
times.
I need to stay cold and clammy 100% of the time.
Yes.
And I need sun.
Yeah. And I'm somewhere in between. Clammy and hot, that's me.
Oh, no.
You're laughing because it's true.
So we talked about Damn It, Janet. Then literally like the bops don't stop for a while. We go
Yes.
I love
from Damn It, Janet into Charles Gray gives like a little speech. He's the criminologist.
Yes.
And
Which is kind of fun. They don't do too much with the criminologist where like his interjections get annoying. He just pops in every so often to be like, this incident happened and this young couple met a nasty set of circumstances. And I have stuff on a projector about them.
they had him for one day of filming. I made.
He gave it his all.
I would say I made Brett and Samantha watch a movie with him in it, but Samantha immediately fell asleep through the whole thing.
I don't believe
Which
she would
movie
do that.
was it?
It was You Only Live Twice because he plays Blofeld in. Oh no!
No, we watched the.
He plays Blofeld in Diamonds Are Forever, but he is in that movie as the contact. So Charles Gray is
okay.
in You Only Live Twice, but he doesn't play Blofeld yet. He
Gotcha.
plays that in the next James Bond movie he's in, but he just plays like the character that gets like stabbed in the back in the middle of a sentence
Yes.
through a paper screen wall.
Okay.
And
I do remember that, actually.
Yeah, but he does play Blofeld in a later movie.
Well, fun fact, I also fell asleep during this movie when I was watching it by myself. And then I rewound it.
I went to a super fun party, came home really drunk, and sat through the whole movie having a great time. And then I rewatched it again. I don't really fall asleep during movies, I will say. I'm not.
Just a sleepy girl.
You're a sleepy person. I'm not a very sleepy person.
I'm very sleepy, but it's like once I'm out, I'm for sure out, but I don't really be napping and just like dozing off quite like that.
I know this may be really surprising to all of our listeners, but I have more of a manic energy. So I do not fall asleep during this movie. I am up and dancing.
I was doing some dancing of my own
It's very
watching
fun.
it yesterday. Yeah, the next song that the criminologist talks for a while, then Brad and Janet, and he's like, little did they know they should have fixed their spare tire because they would suffer a flat.
Yeah.
And it cuts to Brad and Janet in the car. It's through the rainy windshield, and they're listening to like Nixon's resignation speech.
Which puts it on the wrong date. Apparently that bothered Richard O'Brien because he said he didn't want anything that put it in a specific time because they're out of time, out of space.
Yeah, I
it's
get
in the thing, but
I got a chuckle out of
It's
it,
still
but I get
funny.
where he's coming from. So.
it's still funny.
But yeah, so they get a flat. They decide to like. They're like, I can't remember which one, but they're like, didn't we pass a castle a couple miles back? Let's just walk there.
And this is when, again, not to keep referencing the commentary track, but I literally just watched it this morning. But Richard O'Brien said when they went to like the real screening of this the first time, he said his like sphincter was super tight because he just didn't know if anyone was gonna like it. Because again, this was like a very theatery, artsy fartsy stage play. And then they took this thing he wrote, and even though he was the screenwriter, like a lot changed, all that.
Yeah.
It wasn't necessarily his vision, but he said once they said there's a light over at the Frankenstein place, the audience laughed and he relaxed his sphincter.
Oh, good.
So he knew if they laughed at that, they would think the rest of the movie was funny.
Yeah, because it's kind of like on a rewatch, when you get the tone, Damn It, Janet is very clear and funny, but like for an audience who doesn't know what the hell this is, they might not be on that wavelength yet. But over at the Frankenstein place is like silly.
It's very
overtly silly.
Very silly and fun.
And I really like the song. I love Janet's little intro part where she's like got the newspaper over her head in the rain. And then the gloriousness,
Of
perfection
Riff
of Riff Raff's like solo in the middle is so good from the like castle window.
One of my favorite parts of the entire musical is that one part of that song.
I get it. I was like, this is so haunting and melancholy and weird and beautiful.
And it like zooms in and then zooms back out. And he said that there was like all the floors were like rotten through and it was like really scary.
Oh,
I believe
no.
it.
Because it was like they found a castle to film in. It's like now a hotel, but he said back then it was just like really scary. But it's like worth it.
Oh yeah, I mean the shot is amazing and that song is great. And then they knock on the door, Riff Raff answers.
Yes.
And
Hello.
yeah, he's so weird and so off-putting, and Brad and Janet just don't know what to make of it. And he's like, "You're wet," and Janet goes, "Yes, it's raining." And then she gives Brad a look like, "What the fuck?"
And Brad is
so funny.
Brad is so useless.
Yes.
Okay, I have a question about Brad.
Yes.
Because like obviously Brad's character is very repressed.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think that he is closeted, or do you think that he's just a guy clinging to his masculinity and feels just really out of place with like Janet getting like sexually liberated and
Yeah, I think it's
I was
almost
thinking B.
Yeah, I would compare him to almost like an Owen from I Saw the TV Glow from that episode where it's just like he doesn't even really know what he is and he's just performing this like I'm going to get married and have a career and start a family. And then but then when he tries on other identities, because in Rose Tint My World, he's like so into it. He's like got his head like up or his leg up by his head.
but he's scared.
Right. Well, that's the thing. I feel like he's like throwing himself into these situations to be like, is this me? Is this who's going to like me? Like, is this? And he just doesn't like Janet has an actual sort of liberation arc and discovers something about herself where I think Brad by the end is, if
Lost.
anything,
Yeah.
more confused than he was already.
So yeah, they get in and then immediately we have the time warp, which is probably the most iconic.
Yeah. Certainly the most famous song from the show, I think.
Yeah. I went to a performing arts like summer camp when I was a kid, one of the two big ones. And I just remember they had a Rocky Horror Night. And keep in mind, this is for like kids like 8 and up through like 16 or 17. And we're all wearing like fishnets and corsets and we all have the Rose Tint My World face paint. And I just remember they just played the time warp and it was this huge theater filled with like my people. I loved going to the summer camp because like I did not really fit in school. I mean, I had friends, but like I was not an inside person. I was on the outside. And then I was just in this big theater filled with a bunch of freaks and we're all dancing the time warp and, you know, the whole bleachers and stuff would like shake when you would jump. And it was just like it'll just be with me forever, this idea of the time warp. Because I don't think it's the best song in the musical, but it's like the one that you have to get up and start dancing.
And I did. The song ends. Brad makes some terrible joke about some other dance. I can't remember what it is. Oh, do any of you guys do the Madison?
Yeah.
And it goes over like a wet fart. Instead of just like backing away. And they almost back into the elevator. But having just arrived in the elevator is Dr. Frankenfurter himself.
In like
Tim
a
Curry.
big Dracula cape with the big hair and the amazing iconic makeup.
Yes, the amazing makeup.
And just swivel turns around and Janet screams and faints again, which is so funny. And then Dr. Frankenfurter like launches off his cape and is just in what is like the iconic outfit.
Yeah, the corset and the fishnets and heels.
Yeah.
And looking so good.
Yes.
So good.
I'm like, I get why his character banged everybody.
Yeah.
Banged all the other characters.
Absolutely.
But
I think he's so hot
He
in
is.
this
Yeah.
movie. I
He
have
is.
to say,
No,
he
I
looks
agree.
amazing.
And he sings Sweet Transvestite. I see you shiver with anticipation. Patient. And I do. I'd be shivering.
And he's like hamming directly into the camera.
Yeah, he does a lot of fourth wall breaks.
It's so fun. Like he knows how to work the camera because this is, I think, like his first major role, and
It's amazing.
amazing, absolutely kills it. And we just like Brett and I were saying how we really want to talk about these first 4 songs because it's just a perfect like
It's
opening.
like 20 minutes or 25, however long it is, and there's no lulls. It's just awesome and fun and funny and campy, and you're dancing and you're like in awe of Tim Curry. And then as that song ends, like he goes up to the lab and invites them up. Brad and Janet just like get stripped down by the servants, right? By like Riff Raff and Magenta. And
They get put in their tidy
Columbia,
whities.
the groupie. And Columbia like takes the clothes and they're like neatly folded, and then she just like, throws them on the floor and walks away, which is funny.
It's funny.
And then they go up to the lab, and then they're there for the next 17 hours of the movie.
Yes.
The movie is short, but it does drag in the pink room specifically. What's interesting is that pink room set then gets turned into the pool.
Oh.
They film those
okay.
in the same place.
Okay.
So when they had to do reshoots, they just like put tile up and did like close, tight shots.
Interesting.
Because there was a few of those that they had to do later. But I mean, there's some fun segments here. Like I think
There are.
Meatloaf.
Well, that's what I was going to say, because there's like, Frankenfurter's unveiling his new creation, Rocky Horror, who's like the sex man that he made for himself. And he literally like pours like rainbow colors into a tank, and then the rainbow like animates the like muscle hunk.
It's like a
who's Rocky.
skeleton wrapped in mummy wrappings.
Yes.
Gets turned into Rocky. I just love how they say it.
Me too. I love that like kind of posh accent he uses. And like that part is fun, and there's all the electronical whirring and the like dials, and it's very like obviously Frankenstein. But then it goes into a song, "I Can Make You a Man," which I find so boring. And then they sing it
kinda
again
the
in a second.
Yeah, there's a reprise. It's the only song that gets a
It's just
reprise.
like, you're
which
gonna
is-
have muscles, and Charles Atlas, and they reference Charles Atlas like 5 times.
lot.
And I'm like, okay, it might have been funny once.
I don't dislike the song, but it's not one that I listen to.
That's like a hard skip for me. But then we do get, because I'm already like getting bored of the scene, like, okay, let's move it along.
Hot patootie?
Oh yes, and then Meatloaf rides in, like out from the freezer.
Don't worry about it.
Yeah, he rides out of like this cryo like room.
He was
on
in
his
a cryo
motorcycle.
sleep.
Yes, and he just rides his motorcycle around and sings a song called "Hot Patootie, Bless My Soul." And I don't even necessarily love like the song itself, but the energy,
need the
the
energy.
Meatloaf of it all, like, oh, it's
Yeah.
awesome.
The
and I
Meatloaf
really,
of it all.
The Meatloaf of it all.
When I was in middle school, I would write like love and hate on my knuckles because that's what he has.
Yes.
Oh.
There's
In
the
that
close-ups of his like knuckles and he's revving the motorcycle. And then Rocky is kind of like starts dancing, like he's kind of grooving to Meatloaf's song. And Frankenfurter is not having any of that. So doesn't he like rock Lucky in the elevator?
Yes. He locks Locky in the.
Oh.
Yes.
He rocks Locky in the elevator.
No, I'm going to get it. No. He
I'm
locks Rocky
Yes.
in the elevator and then picks up like a pickaxe and just like brutally murders Meatloaf in front of all these people.
In front of Little Nell, Columbia.
Yeah, right. Who's like his lover.
Yes. It's not very nice. He's not a good character guy. I mean, he's not a good guy. He's a great character. He's
Yeah.
not a good guy.
No, and like he never is even presented as any
No.
kind of good guy.
No.
He's like a jealous id machine maniac, like murderer, jealous. Like he's awful.
He's too horny for this planet.
in a very literal sense.
Yes.
But yeah, so that scene, I don't know what even happens. It goes on and on.
It doesn't matter. The plot doesn't
No.
matter. Basically, Eddie had an uncle named Dr. Von Scott, who also is
What
the
are you
Scott.
implying? That's what Brad says when he says, or should I say Von Scott?
It's goofy.
Yeah, and that was the science teacher that Brad and Janet were going to see. And then Dr. Scott shows up in
To
the middle of
find
the night at the castle to find
Eddie.
Eddie, who was there in cryostasis, I guess. But also he's funny because he's like, I knew Eddie had fallen in with a bad crowd, but I didn't know it was extraterrestrials.
It's great.
Which is very funny. Oh yeah, and the way they get Dr. Scott upstairs is by
I
turning
love
on
it.
Right.
the like superpowered like electromagnet, and he just gets like yoinked up and upstairs and like around
He
corners.
goes through like
and all-
Columbia
yeah,
and Magenta's room.
Yes, only to like have to crash through the wall into the lab.
You know why they did that? Because they forgot to build a door into that room. So they just had him crash through the wall.
And I much prefer it that way. In the meantime, I think there is that first night where like Frankenfurter sleeps with both.
Oh yeah, you get
Brad
touch
and
a touch a
Janet.
touch me, which is fun.
I was gonna say I also really like touch a touch a touch me.
That's a fun one.
Yeah, but yeah, so both at this point. So Brad and Janet are in separate rooms, each in like a 4-poster bed with like curtains, and someone knocks on their door, each one's door, in turn in the middle of the night, with the voice out like for Janet's first, and it's like, oh, Brad's here, I'll let him in. Oh, we're kissing. And then the wig comes off, and it's like, she goes, you! And it's Frankenfurter.
Yes.
But, like, presumably dressed like Frankenfurter. Like,
Right.
But once the wig comes off, and then the same reveal happens for Brad. Because he comes in, he's speaking in Janet's voice, and the wig comes off, and it's, you! But, yeah,
it's implied
Frankenfurter
that
fucks both of them.
Yeah, that's what it's implied, is that Frankenfurter fucks them both, and then Janet is, like, unleashed. She's like, she's like, I need more. Literally, she says, I've tasted blood and I want more. And then she goes and fucks Rocky.
Yes. She was so, like, repressed, like, I'm housewife in training, like, she's never maybe even considered her own libido before, beyond just, like, I want to be smooching my husband one day. And all of a sudden she's like...
She says, I had only ever kissed before.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, and Magenta and Columbia are watching on the monitor.
Oh,
like,
right.
does that mean, like, damn, girl.
I love how much they're enjoying this,
Me too.
Yeah.
They're having a little slumber party, like,
Yeah.
in their room, and, like, painting each other's nails and, like, making fun of...
Columbia is
Janet.
painting Magenta's toenails
That's
and,
what
like,
it is.
blowing on her toes. It's very cute.
Yeah, so I like that scene.
I do like that scene. And then you get to the Eddie song where we get Eddie's backstory. I mean, it's kind of fine.
I really didn't like... Well, it's not the song, but I'm like... I just hate that it's a character we've just met singing a song about a character we met for one scene, and the staging is they're sitting around a table.
Yeah.
To me, that's like... I think the first time I watched it, I was like, I remember when this movie was good. During the Eddie scene, like that song specifically.
Fair.
And I felt like it should have been somehow cut, but I think Richard O'Brien was really into just like the reveal of like, oh, they're eating Eddie. Like, where's Eddie? Oh, it's a tender subject. And then taking a bite of the meat.
And none of the actors, I think, except Tim Curry, knew that Eddie was under that table.
That there was that corpse, like...
So they were
Okay.
actually surprised when it got yanked off, which is fun.
It is a fun reveal, yeah.
And then he goes into You Better Wise Up, Janet Weiss, which is another skippable song,
Yep,
in my
that's
opinion.
fine.
And then there's the big confrontation.
Although it's funny how mean he is to Janet.
He is very
He's like,
mean.
your apple pie don't taste too nice. You're as sensual as a pencil. I'm like,
Aw.
don't say that about Susan Sarandon.
Yeah, don't you dare.
Well, he did.
Wow.
I mean, he's just jealous because
is.
Rocky clearly prefers.
Yeah.
Not being chained to the bed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I kind of get where Rocky's coming from.
Um,
Oh yeah, and then the funny scene where they're all like turned into statues one by one by the sonic transducer, and like they each have a little line that they're singing where they're like, "You're a hot dog, and you better not try to hurt her,
Frankenfurter."
And then he zaps him into a statue, and the last one is Janet, and all she gets out is, "You're a hot dog," and then she's just a statue. And it is really funny.
and they're just like naked. Richard O'Brien on the commentary track was so pissed that the statues are all in like plinths, like little
Yeah.
things. And it's like, dude, this movie is so stupid. Like, who cares where the plinth came from? They're also naked and were wearing clothes before.
Yes.
Like-
But Dr. Scott still has his blanket over his lap.
Of course.
It's fine.
Well, we need the blanket for the reveal later.
Yes, which is very good.
And then next comes the floor show, which is Rose Tint My World, that
Yeah.
whole thing. And I really love this sequence. This
It's
is where
so
the movie
fun.
really turns itself around after some, pardon the pun, a rocky middle. Because
Boo.
your boos only make me stronger. But yeah, he's in full, like, Frankenfurter's in full stage manager mode. He's like running around manically, like getting them all in place and like getting the lights all set up.
Putting
for
their
the floor
clown
show.
makeup on.
Yes.
And they're like boas and they're all wearing corsets.
Yes, they're all in like matching like that outfit.
Columbia's tits are just out.
Just out. Like nipples flailing everywhere. But yeah, he like what is it, the D-Medusa?
Whatever.
It's like a lever that's like D-Medusa.
D-Dusa or
yeah,
something.
it's something stupid. And so they unfreeze one by one. and they each sing a verse of Rose Tint My World.
Oh, it's like the best. It may be the best part
really
of
love it. It's such like, they're all so into it. Because it's kind of like, it's almost like they're not singing like as themselves. It's almost kind of like, this is Frankenfurter's floor show.
They're working through their shit.
Yeah.
Of what they've just gone through. Because like, Rocky's
Yes.
like, I'm a baby, but I'm horny.
Yeah. And Columbia's like, I was a groupie and like I did love him, but like God, he treated me so bad and like killed the only other person I loved and it sucked. But like, rose tint my world, keep me safe from my trouble and pain.
Yeah.
And just looking at the world through these rose tinted glasses, even when it's like fucking horrible.
And Susan Sarandon's like, yay!
But Brad's part is my favorite of that song.
I think it is both the most like fun musically.
Yes.
And kind of maybe the most interesting.
Yeah, and he gets the help me mommy thing, which I really love. And he's like really feeling himself. And he's like gonna sissy that walk and like put his leg up next to his head.
But then he just starts shaking.
Yeah.
It's very good.
Right. I think it says so much. And then they go into what, Wild and Untamed Thing?
Yes.
Which is fun because it's kind of more Roasted My World, but it's like the peppy like version.
And then it goes into Give Yourself Over to Absolute Pleasure.
Yeah, Don't Dream It Be It.
Don't
and they're
Dream
in
It
the
Be
pool.
It. Which
And
I find is a little slow, but
it goes on for a while, but I like the vibe. Like,
yeah.
It is a little slow and it's not my favorite song, but I do like the Don't Dream It Be It idea of just create your own.
Those are swapped.
You're right.
Yes, because it does slow and then it does the fast.
They get out
Wild
of the
and Untamed
pool.
Thing.
You're right.
And then they're interrupted by another favorite riffraff moment.
Yes, me too.
Which one is that?
Frankenfurter, it's all. Oh, did you just try and trick me into saying no? But it's,
I wasn't trying to, but I was enjoying it.
They're both in their space costumes, and she's got the Bride of Frankenstein hair.
Love
and he bursts in, and he's got this like. It's like a laser, but it's like a trident.
Well, it's
laser
also
gun.
supposed to be American Gothic again.
I kind of figured with the trident.
Yeah.
I kind of put that together
And
yesterday.
he has a wire hanger in his hair to give him a little curly cue on top of his head.
Yeah, and I do also love that moment musically.
Oh, it's so good.
When they burst in.
Anytime Riff Raff sings, I'm there for it.
I agree.
Personally.
When they're like, we're going home. Like, Frankenfurter, you suck, and we're out of here. Then he's like, home? Why, I'm going to sing a song about going home. And I found it really interesting, just in terms of like what the movie is doing there. Because I'm like, is this like even any kind of like sincerity from Frankenfurter? Like, he may be trying to save face or just like get them to go easy on him so he can go home. It may be a manipulation tactic, but he like gets so emotional while singing this song.
Well, he does like a Judy Garland kind of.
And he also hallucinates this like audience there, and it's all in his head, and like they're like congratulating him as he passes, and like someone wants his autograph, and he's like, oh no. Yeah, and it's just so interesting because it's like, how sincere is he, and like how sincere is someone like him capable of being? This just like horrible id monster.
Well, that's kind of how I read it. Is that I think he's being as sincere as he can be, but it's not that sincere. Like he's just always performing.
Yeah, that's kind of how I read it, but I still thought it was just kind of an interesting moment. And they're like, and Riff Raff's like, oh, I wasn't talking about you. So sorry if you misunderstood.
And Magenta's like yawning throughout the song.
Yeah, and then they, what is it, like Columbia screams for no reason and gets shot.
Yes.
Fine. So Frankenfurter starts running and trying to escape, and that's when he climbs the curtain.
Yes, Tim Curry was climbing that curtain IRL, and a lot of the people backstage were apparently very freaked out by that idea because the celebrities are not like supposed to be doing the stunts.
No.
But yeah, so he gets shot and dies, and then Rocky King Kongs him up the RKO. Apparently they wanted it to be Fox, the 20th Century Fox, but 20th Century Fox wouldn't let them, even though it is a 20th Century Fox thing.
I like that it's the RKO.
Me too.
I prefer it the way it ended up.
Considering the whole thing is like an homage to the old science fiction double features, the trash B movies.
The company like produced all of those like schlocky sci-fi B movies. Not all of them, but just like
a good number of them.
He's like has this King Kong moment where he's like carrying Frankenfurter's body up the like radio tower, and then the tower falls
into the pool. And then it's like basically the whole thing's over, and they're all like, whoever survived is just like in the rubble.
Riff Raff and Magenta are basically talking to Dr. Scott and Brad and Janet, and they're basically like, I don't care about you at all. Like, you can leave, but, like, we're about to beam this house out, so, like, if you're gonna go now.
And Dr. Scott's like, I'm glad you killed him. He's
Society
a menace.
must be protected.
Yeah,
That's
society
when he
must be
says that.
protected. And it's like, Susan Sarandon and Brad are like way more unsure.
Yeah, so they do narrowly make it out of the house. The house does go to the planet of transsexual in the galaxy of Transylvania, or maybe it's the reverse.
Whatever it is.
And there's an interesting song that they cut there.
Superheroes. I
That
really like that song.
And it's so short, I'm like, they should have kept it. I think it's a great ending.
They keep parts of it, but they get rid of most of the song. But the song made it onto the soundtrack.
Okay.
So that's why I know that song.
Yeah, I
well.
really like that song. And then, because it dovetails so perfectly into the criminologist's final thing, where he gets his little monologue, where he's like,
Out of
and
time.
crawling on the planet's face, insects called the human race.
Out of time.
Yeah.
And out of space. And meaning. And then
And
it
it's
goes
a great,
into...
like, yeah.
It's so good. And then it goes into the reprise of science fiction double feature.
Over the credits.
Over the credits. Mm-hmm. And it's so good.
Yeah, so, like, love the beginning. Love most of that ending.
Middle drags.
Middle drags, but there's still some good stuff in it.
That's what I say. This is not a perfect movie.
No.
It's not... The songs aren't all perfect. But I'd say, like, as a whole, it's a really strong musical. It has more bops than flops.
Yes, I agree.
It has some really strong bops.
Yeah.
And as you said, opening up this episode, I cannot disagree with, like, what is the most cult movie to ever cult?
Yeah.
Like, this is another movie that did not do well in the box office when it first opened. They're like, who did we make this for? Like, they didn't know who to market it. They got Fox to buy it, to make it, but then whoever the exec was who was originally on it was, like, swapped out for another person who, like, didn't really want it, but they were already making it. So it's like, we have this weird thing. There's nothing like this.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what do we do with it? But it was just these midnight showings, and the queer community, I think in a big way, just grabbed onto this movie and has not let go since.
No, apparently it is the, like, longest running
It is still running.
theatrical released movie of all time, because it's, like, showed consistently since 1975.
And I think that stage show has been going consistently, just like different iterations in different places. Like it's like, I almost said it's Phantom of the Opera for gay people, but that's also Phantom of the Opera. Sam.
What are some of your favorite songs or moments?
Oh, yeah. Let's do that.
I'd
so,
like to hear that.
yeah, if you could play any role in Rocky Horror, who would you be? We're casting it right now, and you get first pick.
I kind of like Janet a lot.
Sold. You're Janet. Who do you want to be?
I want to be Magenta.
You're Magenta.
Magenta.
I know.
And I want to be Riff Raff.
Hey, there we
you
go.
go.
I dig this casting. I like it. Yeah.
Coming soon, never.
Yeah.
To any of
Coming
you.
soon to your imagination.
If you bring margarita mix over to my house, you give me enough of it, you can get the Mel version of this where I sing through every single part.
Which, in my opinion, is the most authentic Rocky Horror Picture Show experience.
It's the most punk.
Yes.
What I want to hear is you singing through every part and then they're all together. I need it all mixed.
Oh,
Is
yeah.
that my next editing project?
Yes, that's the next
I put
one.
it together in GarageBand.
Yep.
I'm not up to it, but
Ooh, margarita mix it is.
enough margarita mix
There you
could
go.
probably do it.
Stay tuned.
So let's quickly go through. I know this is going to be really hard, but how gay is it? Is it gay? Tell me.
I mean,
Y'all, this is it. When I
Yeah.
said during our,
No, I
saw the
about
TV
that.
glow and I said I wanted to leave the door open to something gayer. The door immediately, I turned around and there was Frankenfurter standing behind me.
He'd been there the whole time.
He was there the whole time in his vampire cape and makeup. It's like, this is the
Yeah.
gayest. I'm going to give it 5 million RKO towers out of 2. It
Yeah.
is super saturated with gay.
Right.
I'm going to give it a good 100%.
Yes.
All right. Yeah. I don't know. My creativity is gone. This will not be funny no matter what comes out of my mouth. Oh no. 69 stilettos out of
420 blazes.
basically out of 42.0 blazes.
God. And then what do we loathe?
The dinner scene for me.
I was gonna say specifically loathing seeing the body being with the
Okay.
what are those things called?
He has like the turkey
Yeah.
saw, like the,
Oh, the electric knife.
knife.
The
Yeah.
electric knife. Duh.
Okay.
The electric knife.
Yeah.
That
So
specifically.
you don't
being
like that?
don't eat it. Don't eat it.
It's just the honestly, even if
mean, in the
just
movie,
the staging had been better, I don't think
Mm-hmm.
I would feel that way. But it's just that they're seated around the table for so long.
I love that scene, but I am not going to fight you on it.
Yeah.
I would say my loathe is probably everything after Hot Patootie. Like, so the reprise and Rocky song through Touch Me. Like,
Okay.
everything in between that, like when Riff Raff is chasing Rocky around with the dogs and all that.
Oh,
I just don't care about it. I just don't care about it. It drags for me. Pink room stuff drags
They
for
could
me.
have cut all of that stuff and just left in Frankenfurter seducing Brad and Janet.
Yeah.
Then go right into Touch Me. And
Yeah, it would've been
We didn't need
fine.
any of the Rocky stuff.
It's fine.
Yeah, who cares? It's
Yeah.
a little late to fix it now.
And
guess.
don't fix it. It needs to be flawed, I think. Like, I
Yes.
think this is not something that would be good if it was perfect.
No, I agree.
It needs to be a little bit janky. And that's why I would never want to see it remade
Yeah.
really slick. Like,
I agree.
leave this thing kind of shitty, is my opinion.
Being rough around the edges is a big part of its charm.
Definitely. All right, so let's wrap up.
Yes.
Hey, Samantha, where can people find us?
Shit. Well, you can email us at queerandloathingpod@gmail.com. And you can find us on Instagram at queerandloathingpod. You can find Mel on Letterboxd.
Oh, you just keep going.
Hater tots it in the haters tot.
Oh, you
It's
started so
actually
strong.
literally that. So just
Thank
listen
you.
to all
Yeah.
that and just try to type
Hater
that
tots
in.
it.
See where it takes you.
You can use AI to transcribe it for you.
And Brett at 666 Satan 666.
Nope.
What is it?
Not it.
What is it?
666 bitch.
Okay.
Yes.
And mine's hater tot. But I do like your versions too.
Yeah. And if there's anyone who you find under those usernames, it's not us, but go ahead and follow them too. They sound like a good time.
If you see tater tot, hater tot, taters on the tot, or whatever the fuck you just,
666 Satan 666.
they seem like they're worth following
Yeah.
as well. And I'm Samantha.
Yeah. I've
right.
yet to be on it.
But I would like for your profile photo to be you with the towel draped over you that you've had.
I can make it happen.
You
Just
look like
snap the photo.
one of those people in a movie who has like a FEMA blanket on.
Yes.
Because they've just been through a
no.
fire.
Yeah, that's why I was like, are you okay?
Y'all, it's cold.
Well, you were in a pool
yeah.
and I was
It
not.
was.
But okay, so I guess we'll see you next time. I'm queer.
I'm loathing.
And I'm Samantha.
Happy Pride, everyone.
Yeah, I'm a wild and an untamed thing.
Be
You're the deadliest
thing.
thing.